Hi and welcome back to The Books Are Everywhere. So in this video I'm going to be talking about my February wrap up and maybe a little bit of my March TBR, although I don't seem to have that many kind of TBRs at the moment or like fixed reading goals, and these wrap-ups end up taking a while and then I end up not really talking about my TBR. I managed to read 10 books in February, so that was 4 books less than January, but in January I read like more novellas and kind of graphic novels and stuff, and also February is a short month, so I had like 3 less days to read books, so I think 10 books for me is fine. I would like to average around that for the year if I could, that would be amazing, but I think I need to read like 8 point something to get to 100 for the year, so fingers crossed that is what I managed to do. I am about 8 or 9 books ahead of my goal right now, so that is really, really cool. I'm really happy about that because it's given me a little bit of security that when I go back to like normal life, like work and stuff, I will be okay and I'll still manage to hit that 100 book for the year goal, so that is really nice. So I'm just going to take you through the books that I read in February today. So first of all we have the Rebel of the Sands trilogy. I buddy read this series with Alex throughout February and it was really, really nice. I've had this series sat on my shelves for years. Like I bought the books kind of as they came out and I think it's been more than 5 years since the first one came out, so they have been on my shelves for a while. I actually started Rebel of the Sands years ago and just couldn't get into it at the time, but I thought I would like it at a different point, which is why I picked up the other 2 anyway, as I kind of saw them come out, and I just love these covers so much. Like, they're really, really pretty, they're so shiny, really, really nice. So I really enjoyed these ones. This is about a girl called Amani who escapes the dust walk where she lives in the desert, and she ends up joining like a rebellion, and it's about them, and there's a lot of like found family and relationships that are not like taking over the plot line, which I really liked. I really like this one. It felt really unique. If you are looking for a YA fantasy set in the desert, I would definitely recommend this to you. I loved the location of it. So I gave the first 2 books 4 stars and the last book 3.5 just because I felt I couldn't get into it quite as much for some reason, and I felt a little bit disconnected from the characters, but overall I would definitely rate that series like 4 stars, solid 4 stars, really, really enjoyed it. And the next book I read in February, these are kind of not in the order I read them just because I wanted to talk about that series together, and also I want to talk about this one because I read this one throughout the whole month, and then I'm going to go through them in order kind of when I read them. So this is the next one kind of that I read. I read this one from like the 1st to the 28th of February pretty much, because I'm reading this on audiobook and I'm reading the whole series on audiobook. I'm trying to get through one a month. Very, very slowly reading them because I'm not driving a lot at the moment, so I only kind of read them when I run. I don't know if it was just because I did take so long to read this, but I found this a lot slower than Red Queen. Like Red Queen just seemed to be full of action and I felt like I was right there in like what was going on. Whereas this felt like a lot of the same, like a lot of stuff seemed quite repetitive. It felt like not a lot happened in the book. I still really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm just going to check. Yeah, I still gave this one 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't quite up there with Red Queen. But now I'm going to read King's Cage and hopefully that one is back up there with Red Queen. And now we're going kind of in order of the books that I read in the month, other than Rebel of the Sands buddy read and Glass Sword, which I read throughout the month. So the first one I don't have a copy of anymore, and that is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, so I'll put the cover here for you. This is a thriller, an adult thriller. It's not something I'd usually read, but I bought it for my mom because she really likes adult thrillers and I've heard such good things about this book. And actually ended up quite enjoying it. My mom really liked it and then she kind of passed it on to me, so I ended up reading it. I did feel really invested in this book, and I can definitely tell why Lucy Foley has become such a popular thriller author, definitely in the UK anyway. And I would really recommend it if you do like adult thrillers, but it kind of lost me in the sense that I just didn't like any of the characters. It was very cleverly written in the sense that because I didn't like any of them, the killer could have been any of them, but I feel like when you do go on that kind of thriller plot line, you take away from any kind of likeability in the characters, and I do struggle to like a book that I can't sympathise with like any of the characters. I think I kind of sympathised with one of them, but that was kind of it. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I did still enjoy it. It had a lot of heavy scenes, and I would definitely check up content warnings if you are going to read it. There is some self-harm scenes, there's some like suicidal ideation, there's a lot of bullying, drug use, alcohol use. I would definitely search up content warnings if you are going to read it, because a lot of stuff in there was very kind of visceral, and that could be really hard for some people, so go into that one with caution. And the next book on this list is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. I absolutely love this book. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. I picked this one out of my TBR jar just because I wanted my next read, and I didn't know what that was going to be, and I just fell in love with this. This has been sat on my shelves for a while, since I saw it on Bookstagram a couple of years ago, and I picked it up in Foyles in London, I believe, and I just fell in love with it because this is a slow burning romance between the two main characters who kind of know each other through like friends and family, and then like she moves to the place where near the place where he works, and then they meet, and then they kind of meet on the street by chance, and she rescues him from having a panic attack, and then they become each other's emergency contact, which I absolutely adored, and it really hit me in the feels. Like, the reason I love this book so much is because it really reminded me of my own relationship with my boyfriend, and like we didn't see each other all that much when we started going out. Well, just before we started going out, because we didn't live that close to each other. So we kind of saw each other every couple of weeks, and a lot of the times that we talked were on messages, and we kind of fell in love through those messages, the same as the characters in this book did. And there was so many things in this book that reminded me of my own relationship that I just fell in love with it because of that, because it felt so real to me, and it really kind of hit a spot with me that I did not expect. So I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved it. And I really want to read more by this author. Yoke has just come out by her, which I want to get my hands on. That sounds really interesting as well. So the next book on this list was Persuasion by Jane Austen. I am trying to read 11 books this year that is out of the Wordsworth set, and also recommended to me by my friends. And this was recommended to me by Mark, my boyfriend. He really wanted me to read this one, so I decided to pick it up first and give it a go. I've never read anything by Jane Austen before, so that was quite an experience. And also, this book was set in 1818, which is the oldest book I've ever read, probably by about 30 years. And I definitely noticed going into this, the writing was quite difficult to get through, and just getting used to like reading super slow. This probably took me about double the time that it would take me to read like per page, so definitely an adjustment going into a classic when I normally read like YA fantasy. But I really like this. This just gave off really like cozy feelings. I'd love to read this in autumn. Definitely would be perfect to read in autumn, but I think winter is like the second best choice. And I really like the discussion of like relationships and friendships and femininity in this book, and I can't wait to read more by Jane Austen. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book is another one that my TBR jar picked out for me, and that was The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James. This was a wacky book. This is about a girl who goes into an abandoned building and falls to her death. Then she becomes a ghost, and she lives in that building with the other people who have died in the building and are also ghosts. So she's trying to like adjust to life as a ghost, and it's just really, really weird. Just very strange, but I really, really enjoyed the kind of concept of it and all of the different characters of the ghosts. Obviously they have their own like personalities and their kind of lives and backgrounds and stuff, which was really interesting to read about. I did struggle with this one a little bit because I didn't like the main character for a lot of it. It's kind of the point, like she is kind of a brat, and she does have a redemption arc in this book, and that you do see that going on, and you see why Lauren James wrote her that way. I just found it difficult to kind of get on with the book because I didn't like her for most of it, so I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I absolutely love Lauren James's work, and I will read anything that she has written. This just wasn't my favourite, unfortunately. And the next one I read was Horrid by Katrina Leno. This was really shocking for me because I do not read horror, but this one really intrigued me and I actually really enjoyed it. This is the beautiful Owl Crate edition of it. And basically this is about a girl who moves to a small town after her dad's died. I think they lived in San Francisco before, and they moved to a small town in Maine, and they moved to a manor house that her mom lived in as a kid, and everyone basically says that this manor house is like haunted and stuff, and she slowly kind of realises why. And it's kind of about her settling into the town and hearing stuff about the manor, and also having experiences in the manor that are really, really creepy. This one really creeped me out. I did struggle to kind of read it alone or anything, or at night, but I just really liked it was so clever the way it was written. It really grasped my attention. I didn't want to put it down. It's really short. This one is written in like sections rather than chapters, so I didn't know if it would take me longer to read it, but I really like that. I could easily read like 50 to 100 pages of it. Don't go into it lightly. It's very weird. It has some really difficult discussions in it, and it is very creepy. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend this book. It did really creep me out in parts, but just be aware for some like really weird stuff to go on. So the character eats books, which is crazy, and also the ending. Apparently this author is kind of known for their endings being quite like left quite open, and it just wasn't really what I was looking for from the ending, so that didn't really live up to my expectations, but definitely really enjoyed the book as a whole, so this one was 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in January was The Lives of Saints by Leigh Bardugo. This is the Illumicrate edition of it, and this is absolutely beautiful, beautiful book. This is what it looks like underneath, which is similar to or the same as the standard edition, just with a nice dust jacket on it. This is another kind of fairy tale thing from Leigh Bardugo, very similar to The Language of Thorns. So it is a book that is set within the Grisha world, and it is basically in the Grisha trilogy. The characters talk about this book as kind of like a Bible, like they're given it as a child, and they kind of learn from this book and they take it with them throughout their lives, and I think they own a copy of the book. So this was really interesting. I would really recommend this if you do like Leigh Bardugo's work, especially if you liked The Language of Thorns. I would just go into it knowing that the stories in this are so short that there is not really a lot of character development. You can't really connect to the characters. It's very much like a companion thing for the rest of the books. The other thing that I didn't like about it was just comparing it to The Language of Thorns. Like, there was a lot more depth to the stories because they were longer, whereas obviously with this they are like a page or to like 4 pages at maximum, so there isn't a lot of room for development. But I did find it absolutely beautiful. I'll just try and find like some of the illustrations in it are really, really pretty. And I really like how this book is kind of like decorated. Some of them are really creepy as well, as you can see from that one. But yeah, I did really like this, and if you want to learn more about the Grisha world, I would definitely recommend it. And if you like fairy tales, I would recommend it. I would say this is most like Aesop's Fables to me, just because they are like super short stories. Yeah, so they definitely reminded me of Aesop's Fables growing up. So yeah, I would recommend this one. I think I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars just because it wasn't quite up there for me, but I did still really enjoy it, and I really like Leigh Bardugo's work. So those were all the books I read in February. Talking about them, it feels like there is quite a lot there now. But yeah, I read some really good books in February. I feel like it was like a middling month. Like I don't think I rated anything. I only rated one book 5 stars, so it wasn't like an amazing, like not everything I read was amazing, but I did largely enjoy all of the books that I read. So in March I don't have too much of a set TBR. I am finishing up Life and Death, which I'm reading with Amy, and you may or may not see a really ranty video about this because it's not great. So this is the anniversary edition of, the 10th anniversary edition of Twilight, in which the genders are switched. And the story has been rewritten. I don't even feel like I can say that because it's basically just the same thing. But yeah, so prepare to see a video about this one coming up soon. I'm almost done with that one. I've also already read Little Women, which was my kind of recommended Wordsworth edition for the month, so I've already read that one. Absolutely loved it, gave that one 5 stars. And I'm also reading Serious Moonlight by Jem Bennett, which I picked out of my TBR jar not too long ago. Really liking this one. I'm only about 75 pages in, but I really like anything Jen Bennett writes, so definitely enjoying that one. I'm also planning on reading Red, White and Royal Blue, which I picked out of my TBR jar, and I'm hoping to start an Ember in the Ashes series with Alex at some point this month. So that is my very, very loose March TBR. I'll probably just pick more out of my TBR jar as the month goes on as well and talk about those a little bit more. I hope you enjoyed this, what feels like a very long wrap-up video. I hope I didn't ramble too much about all of these books. Please let me know what you read in February in the comment section, and give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye!